Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Animation Governor Bill Croyer.
Thank you, and thank you, Morgan, for reminding me about being up here. So on behalf of my fellow governors, Bob Rogers, John Bloom, and Jennifer Yu Nelson, I would like to welcome you to the Animated Features Night. Yay. We're so happy to have you all as guests at our 16th annual celebration of the Animated Feature Academy Award. And for the first time tonight, it's streaming live. So don't all rush out to your computers. Please stay in your seats. You'll all be famous. Yeah, it's a great year, another fantastic year of fantastic films. And think of how hard these nominees have worked to create these wonderful animated films. They've worked so hard. Not quite as hard as we at the Academy have worked to try to understand what the heck is an animated film anymore. It's like, how do you even tell? I'm curious, how many people, let's see a show of hands, how many people think Jungle Book is an animated feature film? How many people think Avatar is an animated feature film? How many people think Princess Leia is animated? I mean, you can kind of see, here's the deal. I know you think that the life of an Academy governor is all champagne and buffets, but you're only 2/3 right. We spend a lot of time in awards committees and executive committee meetings going over things like that, like how do you actually define a feature in this age of technical innovation? It's very difficult to do. I'll tell you what it is, because I know you're wondering. It's not how it looks. Doesn't matter if it's photoreal, doesn't matter if it's cartoony looking. The Academy definition of an animated feature film is a film that's over 40 minutes in length, in which most of the principal characters' performances have been created with frame-by-frame animation techniques. So no mocap, no real live stuff, no puppetry. It's got to be handcrafted, frame-by-frame stuff. And I'm happy to tell you that all 5 of the nominees qualified. But the other weird thing is that Jungle Book would have totally qualified, because most of the characters are keyframed. They have not found a way to mocap a tiger or a monkey yet, so they had to animate them. So what can I say? Yeah, it's crazy what's happening in technology. Can you believe that in 1911, Vladislav Starovich took dead grasshoppers and he put little metal things in them and he animated them frame by frame, made the first stop-motion animated film, his first stop-motion hit. Whatever happened to that technique? Oh, wait a minute. There's 2 stop-motion films animated tonight. Let's see. We have My Life as a Zucchini. Unfortunately, Claude Barris and Max Carl can't be with us tonight. They are in Paris. Can you believe it? Yeah. But the other stop-motion film, Kubo, yes. And Travis Knight and Ariane Sutton are here, and I got to tell you, Vladislav would have been proud, so thanks for carrying on that tradition. Of course, this animated feature, let's face it, the reason the animated feature exists, the reason the genre exists is because of the fairest of them all, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1939. Hand-drawn animated feature. Thank you, God, we still have hand-drawn features. Let's hear it for the red turtle, yes. And unfortunately, Michael Dudot de Witt is also in Paris, which is terrible. However, what a great thing. We always look at animation as this worldwide community, and it really is. And all of you that have worked with people from around the world know this. It's like this brotherhood, this family. And The Red Turtle, of course, is a film that kind of exemplifies that, because it was a co-production from 3 countries that have some of the strongest legacies of hand-drawn animation: Belgium and France and Japan. Of course, the incomparable Studio Ghibli, and tonight we're honored to have the nominee, Mr. Toshio Suzuki, with us. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Walt Disney Productions. Whatever happened to those guys? had a couple of rough years, but they are they are definitely back. The Walt Disney Feature Animation Group with the two remaining nominees tonight, 2 CG animated films. The first, Moana. Directed by the 2 guys who I believe, and I think a lot of people agree with me, basically sort of saved this genre and started the golden age with their beloved classic, Little Mermaid. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron and John. And it's just Ron and John. That's it. It's Ron and John. Anything else? Show of hands. How many people know the last names of Ron and John? Raise your hands. I want to see it. I'm going to take a picture of this because I got to tell you, I think this is a special thing. How can you believe that to be that iconic? It's really something. And then there's another film from Disney, Zootopia. And that's made by the young guys. Oh, wait, I forgot. I'm sorry. I got to step back. There's another nominee for Moana, and that's Osnod. And again, like Ron and John, no last name. Just it says Cher, Oprah, Osnod. So there we go. Yeah. What is it about? I don't know. Let's talk about these young guys from Zootopia, the young guys that have to grow beards to look older. What's the deal there, you know? They are so young, they are so full of energy that Disney has them working all the time, right? They're working tomorrow, they're working Monday. It's like, these guys are unbelievable. So anyway, it's another great year. It's a terrific year with wonderful people, wonderful nominees. And we love tradition in animation. We love tradition here at the Academy. And one of the things we started to do a few years ago was for this night, we invited back, as your hosts, last year's winners. So please welcome the peerless Academy Award-winning directors of Inside Out, Pete Docter and Jonas Rivera.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be here.
It is. Show of hands, how many people think the 1967 Jungle Book is animated? 100%.
They're correct.
We are so excited, they're correct, and pleased to be here. It's really a great honor. I want to thank Mr. Croyer. He's the greatest. Let's hear it for Bill Croyer one time. And all the governors and everybody at the Academy for inviting us. We're really thrilled. And even for having this event. It's just such a great event to celebrate animation and all the work that's done on these films. And it means a lot to us to be here. So thank you for that.
We were here, yes, thank you. We were here last year when Don Hall, Chris Williams, and Roy Connolly did such a fantastic job. I got to say, we're a little less nervous this year because all we have to do is dish out questions, which is easy because we love these movies, and we're excited to learn a little bit more about them and talk to all you guys. Just a reminder tonight, the voting is done. There's no campaigning. We can talk about the truth, finally.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
And again, this year's nominees continue to be a really well-rounded group, a lot of diversity, which is really exciting for us because that's really the lifeblood of this, is to see such different and cool, innovative stuff.
That's right. And here's a reminder, if you haven't been here, here's how it works. We, Pete and I are going to call up, a clip from each film, and then it's going to show, and then we're going to bring up the filmmakers who've been introduced to talk about it. Sit in the chairs, we're going to do a little Q&A. We've done our homework, we've tried to. You have to forgive us, we're going to be reading a little bit, so we want to ask some good questions. And we know, to the filmmakers who are going through this, we know you've been on a long road, a lot of publicity, a lot of tours, a lot of travel. Probably everybody's tired.
Questions over.
Yeah, same questions over and over again. My favorite is, what's a producer do? I love that one. And my mother asked that one still. But we apologize in advance. We tried to break that a little bit and come up with something a little more interesting and to cue a conversation. So if our questions are boring or lame or stupid, just ignore us and answer the question you wish we'd asked, and we'll just shut up and we'll sit down. Is that good?
Sounds good.
So we should get started, right? We're going to start. We're going to start with Kubo and the Two Strings. Yeah. It's just such an amazing and beautiful film. We can't wait to look at a clip here. Let's roll the film, and then we'll come back up. Thank you very much.
If you must blink, do it now. Pay careful attention to everything you see and hear, no matter how unusual it may seem. Please be warned. If you fidget, if you look away, if you forget any part of what I tell you, even for an instant, then our hero will surely perish. His name is Kubo. His grandfather stole something from him. And that really is the least of it.
Amazing. Oh my God. Please welcome to the stage Travis Knight, Ariane Suttner, the director and producer. Come to the stage. Congratulations, so amazing.
Congratulations.
Unbelievable. We love this movie so much.
Oh,
really
you clearly
beautiful.
have good taste.
Thank you.
Travis, I was curious, you started as an animator and a supervising animator on Coraline, Box Trolls, a number of other projects. Talk a little bit about how that prepared you as a director, like what you learned from some of these other directors you worked with.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've been working in animation for 20, nearly 20 years now, and doing a lot of different roles. And so, animation was one of them, but I've also worked in development. To start out, I was a production assistant. I work in scheduling and coordinating. I've worked in CG. I've worked in, woo. Yeah. Woo. I've worked in CG and in stop motion. I've animated for forever, but I've also developed and produced films, and I've run a company in that period of time. And so I think that it really wasn't just animation. It was all those experiences that I had from the beginning of my career leading up till now that ultimately were the training ground for directing, because I can't speak to how it is at other shops, but at our studio, the director really is the nexus of every single creative and technical decision that happens on the show. And so even having that perspective of working in the trenches as an animator and then also having a global view as a producer or an executive, I don't know that I was fully prepared for how hard it is. It's real. I mean, there's just so much that goes into directing a film, and to really being able to have that clear vision and be able to articulate that, communicate that to the crew, and hopefully inspire hundreds of artists to do their best work. But the thing that was the greatest thing for me, though, was that even though I was trying every day, I was trying to come up with ways that I could get the crew to inspire the crew to do their best thing. It would always go the other way. They would always do things that just blew my mind and inspired me, and it made me feel like I had to do the best work I could possibly do just to honor the stuff that they were doing. And it really was the most incredible experience of my career.
Well, talk a little bit about kind of other influences and things that got you excited about this film particularly.
The film, the reason I was drawn to the material and subject matter, really, it comes down to my parents, my folks. My mom, she was a huge fan of big epic fantasy stories. In fact, when she was pregnant with me and when she was recovering in the hospital after I was born, she was reading Lord of the Rings. So it's almost like this stuff was like baked into my DNA. And so she would read me these stories as a kid, and I absolutely adored them. But just for the young kids in the audience, having a big slobbering love affair with J.R.R. Tolkien does not necessarily endear you to the ladies. That was something I had to find out the hard way in high school. Thanks, Mom. But so the love of fantasy, I've always loved those kinds of stories and wanted us to tell a story like that. But then for my dad's part, he gave me a very different gift, and that was, he was a businessman that traveled all throughout Asia, and so it was always something that was a part of our household. But when I was around 8 years old, he let me tag along on one of his business trips to Japan, and I grew up in Portland, Oregon. And from the moment I set foot in Japan, it really was like I'd been transported to another world. It was so completely mind-blowing and life-altering. I came back home changed by that experience and having a deep love with the art and the culture of Japan. And so this film really was an opportunity to weave those two things together, a love of fantasy that I got from my mom and a love of Japan that I got from my father, all entwined in a film that's effectively about the sustaining love of family.
All right, talk about, because the movie is so spectacular. It's just such scope and scale.
It really is.
It really is. As a producer, because I know you're trying to harness that and I don't know, understand the complexities and honor the vision. What were some of the challenges for you on your end, just the operation of it and figuring it all out? I mean, it just blows my mind.
Well, I think, pretty much every single thing of it is antithetical to what we normally think of a stop-motion animation movie, action, adventure, fighting. There are tons of characters that are just up off of the ground. We've got tons of water. We have fully furred characters. It's like clearly not a movie that you would want to, shoot in stop-motion animation. Yeah. So all of it, and yeah.
So maybe my question is why? It's just
why?
How? It's just so amazing. I feel like also just to say that one of the things I love is not only the scale and the just the scope, but it's also very intimate at the same time. And the camera work and the grammar, the tight, shallow depth of field. It's just like I feel like you've never gotten closer in this medium to the subjects.
We love. I mean, that's really we love hearing that. That's music to our ears because I mean, I think of all of the spectacle. Like I don't think something that we talk about is that. In the 10 years that we've been making movies, we weren't really ready to do something as ambitious as this until now, and that was really because of some of the fellas who are in the audience. If I could see, I would be pointing over in that direction, but we weren't really ready until now to be able to do it, and so that, we took on this challenge now because we felt like we were able to, extend vistas and be able to bring this to life, and I always think the action adventure, the fight scenes, like it's incredible to shoot one frame at a time. It's really literally moving an object, a frame, taking another frame and moving it through space. And we did it so well. Travis really did it so unbelievably well. But I think what
I really did.
But what we're most proudest of is like while they're having these fights, they're emotionally resonant. They are. We've pushed the character animation as much as we possibly can. I think those are the moments that we're most proud of.
Yeah, I think to your point, Jonas, and to what Ariane was just saying, I think people understand that doing big spectacle and action and big vistas and all that sort of thing in stop motion is challenging, and it is. But I think just as challenging, but more important, are those moments of stillness, those moments of characters connecting with each other and really showcasing that they are emotional creatures with nuance and with subtlety. And that is as hard, if not harder, to do in stop motion as the spectacle is. But it's more important because if you don't get that, then I think the audience does not forge that emotional connection with the characters. Because in the end, it's all trickery. Like whether we're working in 2D or whether we're working in CG or we're working in stop motion, none of these things have an inner life. The only life that they have is the life that the animators give it. And so you're looking at an assemblage of steel and silicon and cloth. And but when you watch it on screen and through the incredible skill of the imagination of the animators, these things spring to life as if they have an inner life. And when the audiences can connect with those characters, really, it is, for me, it's the closest thing to magic that I've ever seen. When they can emotionally go on this ride with what is effectively a doll, to me, it's incredible. And I've been doing it for 20 years. I still can't believe it.
That's awesome.
When we're watching the clips here, and so we haven't seen it for a long time, and we're used to living with it every single day. And we're like, we got really into it. We were like not ready to come on stage because we were, getting into it. Travis is a director. I don't know. Sorry, I'm.
Stop.
We've
already established how awesome I am.
Yeah. In terms of pulling performances back, it's something I think some of the animators say in terms of being restrained. I think the restraint of this movie is something that I'm really proud of. I'm proud of the work that he did, pulling people back and making it, we hope, really emotional and really subtle and really, like life.
Actually, I wanted to talk a little about that because the facial animation is so subtle, and that's like scary when you're dealing with little tiny things projected on a big wall. Yeah. It seems like stop motion is simultaneously the most tactile and like it's right there in front of you. You are literally moving it with your hands and taking a picture, and yet you guys are really pushing the limits on a lot of technology here, adding set extensions, camera moves, the printouts of the faces. How do you approach some of those problems? Do you think about this technology at all when you're thinking about the storytelling?
It's not really. I mean, as you're working out the story in the early parts of the process, you're just trying to come up with the best, most powerful story you can, the thing that's most resonant and thought-provoking. You're trying to come up with a world and characters and a theme that hopefully will reach people. So you're not really thinking about how you're going to execute on it. Years later, once you get to that point where we feel like we have something that will sustain the pressures of a production, that's where we realize, oh my God, how are we going to do all this sort of thing? But I think the incredible thing about the team at Leica is that we have just an insane group of craftspeople and artists and technicians who come from all over the world with all manner of disciplines. So we have techniques that go back to the dawn of cinema with the stop motion that we use, like the grasshopper with the armature. It's effectively a lot of the things that we do are unchanged from that era over 100 years ago. But then we have cutting edge technology. We have people who are developing techniques that really haven't existed before we started messing around with it. And I think that fusion of art, craft, science, and technology are one of the things that visually and aesthetically make our films so unique. It's a way of making films that's unlike anywhere else on earth. And I think when you have a lot of different people, a lot of different artists from different backgrounds and different disciplines, it really does create fertile ground for innovation. And I think people would be surprised to the extent that we integrate technology into the mix. But the most obvious way is the rapid prototyping, which we use 3D printing to create all the facial animation in the film. And some of those faces are incredibly small, so getting that kind of subtlety is not something that these machines were even designed for. In fact, that baby that you saw on screen, that was actually something that I animated, and the baby was as big as my thumb. So when I had to change those faces, I had to use tweezers to change the faces because they were so small. And yet on the big screen, the baby looks fully alive. And I think it's a testament to the technology that our crew has developed.
What about the compositions? Because a lot of the photography is just beautiful. How much of that is on your boards versus do you have an interim kind of a workbook phase where you really explore that, or is it found on the set?
No, we put a lot of burden on our storyboard artists to think cinematically. And so there are only a handful of times where we actually use pre-visualization. Most of the time we just go straight from boards right to the stage. And so we have a very small team of board artists, maybe 5 guys and girls. And they are, we really get them to think in a very cinematic way. And sometimes that's challenging because not all board artists think that way. I mean, some board artists are just essentially writers or gag people, and that's one of the great strengths that they bring. But we challenge our board artists to think of this as a movie, and so when we actually go out on the stage, our lighting cameramen take most of those boards fairly literally. Sometimes there's interpretation, sometimes the boards aren't quite right, and we talk through it. There are a handful of instances because of the challenges of what the sequence was, we would do some previs, but that was very, very rare. And for the most part, it just goes right from boards to the stage.
Do you discover things on the stage that, in the moment you'll...
Usually it's, goddamn those storyboard artists.
Didn't work, yeah. This shot's impossible.
Yeah, it's like, we can't get that. It's impossible. Sons of bitches.
We previs also. We do camera blocks. We use models. We do some old-fashioned and more practical ways of figuring out where that camera can go. And
Told you we weren't the only ones.
You guys do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is really old school technology. We use foam core cutouts with lipstick cameras, and we'll kind of mock up what the set is. And when we do previs, usually it's just to try to figure out how much we're going to build because we don't want to build any more than we have to. One of the main places that we use pre-visualization was on this sequence where Kubo goes underwater, and this incredible garden of eyes, all these eyeballs, these eyeball monsters that are attacking him. And but while the script called for essentially an army, a horde of them, we only built one, and we used previs to figure out, okay, how could we shoot this one eyeball from multiple angles and then composite it together to make it look like there was a whole horde of these things. And so we shot that over about 18 months. There was only one, but when you watch it on the screen, it looks like there's a whole horde of them.
I understand Shannon Tyndall kind of originated the concept. Was that in script form or drawings, or how did it first appear?
The original idea was essentially a pitch. It was based off of I think it's like a 3-page treatment, and there was something that was really, really exciting and compelling about the idea of telling a big, epic, sweeping samurai story in stop motion. It's just something that we've never seen before, and for good reason. It turns out it's hard. It's really hard. Oh my God, you guys, it's so hard. But it was also something that we recognized that if we could pull it off, that we would really be advancing the medium in so many different ways, in places it's never been before, and we have the team to do it. I mean, one of the things that I love about our crew is that they're just so inspired and passionate, and every ounce of that goes on the screen, and they just did an extraordinary job. It exceeded all my expectations.
This one for the guy that loves schedules. How long did it take to animate? Just from shot 1 to the end?
23 months.
23 months.
You happy, sir? All right, good.
Woo! Who's happy?
Someone cheered for schedules.
Crossing my fingers. We hope it's 18 months, and we always schedule for that. But it's never 18 months ever.
No.
Yeah, I mean, on average, animators do 4 or 5 seconds of footage in a week. So it gives you some sense of how long it takes to make these things. On a good week, we do maybe 2 minutes of footage between the entire animation team. So it's slow going, but it's it's just it's a very strange way to make a movie. But we're passionate about it. We love it. I don't think you're drawn to this field unless you absolutely love making films in this medium, and I think that comes through in the films.
I wanted to ask about the giant skeleton too, which is immense when you see it in the credits. Why did you approach it that way as opposed to just using a reduced scale? What was the advantage of this massive puppet?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Of course. Looks great in the credits.
Next question.
One of my biggest influences, and I think on many animators, particularly stop motion animators of my generation, was Ray Harryhausen. And yes, and Ray, yes, indeed. One of the most iconic moments in cinema is that moment from Jason and the Argonauts, where a live-action Jason goes up against a whole army of stop-motion skeleton monsters, and it's just this incredible, indelible moment of cinema. And when I saw that, it blew my mind as a kid. And so on this film, essentially that was a tip to the hat of the master, and also an attempt to one-up him with a skeleton warrior that was actually so big it dwarfed the animator that brought it to life. That's never happened before. And originally we do think about this stuff. It's like, okay, does it make sense to do a scaled down model and then composite together, or maybe we'll build a portion of it and then for those areas of critical contact where the puppets are scurrying around, or maybe we'll do a CG version of it. And so we talked about all these things, and in the end, it really made more sense to build the thing, just because of all the different considerations involved. But the thing was enormous. I mean, it was 16 feet tall. It weighed over 400 pounds. We had to come up with this new way of rigging it because it was so heavy. The traditional methods of rigging this puppet probably would have meant that it couldn't support the weight, and it would have toppled over and squished the animator, which is not something you want. I think that violates OSHA regulations.
Hard to meet your schedule.
Yeah. But and it would put us behind schedule, which was the more important thing.
That's the bad part.
So we developed this bit of technology, which is essentially a repurposed flight simulator, or like a motion control, a virtual reality ride that you find at a theme park. And that allowed us to support the weight of the torso while moving the thing around at basically any angle. And then the animator climbed up on the scaffolding to animate the puppet a frame at a time, and he would step on these pressure sensor mats that would allow the animator to move the arms. And all the arms were connected with these cables that were strung up to the ceiling and then dropped back down and held in place by big plastic buckets filled with sandbags. So it was really cool. I love that puppet because it was a combination of really high-tech stuff that we had to invent and stuff you find laying around in your garage, which is kind of just how we do things at the studio.
I loved hearing you say that, sitting here even now, seeing it, it's a little distance from the film. Is there a shot or a sequence that you're particularly proud of, both of you? Is there something that stands out? It's interesting to watch, your films after you have a little space, and what sticks out sometimes at the end isn't maybe what you thought. I'm just curious what pops out to you where you. It's
like asking a mom what's your favorite child is.
She has one. She's told me who it is. But we're live streaming, so I'm not going to say anything.
No, my boys, no. So it's in the script. You imagine what's going to be really hard and undoable, and then you get to it, and things are really surprising. So, like I said, I really am proud of the work that they did with the action sequences. It's not just because they create miracles, but I think the action sequences themselves, they're not gratuitous. They're really in character. They're really, even if this was a live action movie, I love those action sequences. And then I love the really quiet moments, and I love our characters. I love all of it.
And your boys.
And both of our boys.
One more than the other.
Pretty equally.
No, it's not true. I'm kidding, boys. I'm with Ariana. It's like the big action sequences were really challenging, and so the fact that they came together at all and that they came together as well as they did is something that I think the whole team is enormously proud of. But again, I think that the things that make the film resonate and mean something to the audience are those moments, those character moments, those quieter moments, and those are the ones that I'm most proud of. The animators. We really challenge the animators to do the finest work of their career, the most difficult work in stop motion. When you have these enormous, greasy sausage fingers, and you're moving these tiny little puppets a frame at a time, and trying to get little tiny millimeters of movement out of these things. and to make them feel subtle, like they're breathing, they're alive, and it's really challenging. But when they spring off the screen, like they did in that moment where Kubo's taking care of his mom, those are the moments that resonate. Those are the moments that land, and those are the moments that without which the film does not work.
That's awesome.
Well, we're out of time, but we have one.
I have one question for Jonas.
Yeah. Oh.
I think that everyone here wants to know, what does the producer do?
Yeah, that's well. How much time do we have?
We'll have to come back to that. But we do have one bonus question before we let you go.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned your boys. I whenever we're working on anything, I kind of use my family and my son William, who's 5. I grew up watching movies with my parents and animated and live action, and my kids always ask really great questions about the movies. And before I ask this, and everyone I'm going to ask one of these, when I showed him Inside Out, he asked me a question about Superman. So sometimes you get something different. So I had him write questions for everybody here tonight, and I wanted to end it with that. So his question was, where does Kubo get the magical banjo?
Banjo?
Hey, man, I got a Superman question for Inside Out, so just be happy it's in the movie.
Yeah.
Hold on.
We have... Yeah, it's not worth writing. It's not worth writing down.
Really?
No, but
Tell him to call me. He's 5, right?
it's we developed this whole mythology around the film that kind of finds its way into the film. But the banjo, as your son so astutely points out, shamisen and in other terms, is actually a gift from his mother. It's like in the beginning of the film we see that she, when she's in the boat coursing her way through the waves. Essentially, that's her. The idea was that is her weapon. That is the thing. Like all the sisters have a weapon. One of them has a surigama, which is this kind of chain sickle weapon. One of them has this smoke pipe and these swords.
But she doesn't smoke.
And no, that is bad, kids. As is murder, which we have a fair amount of in this film.
But that's cool.
Don't do either one of those things. But the magical banjo can be used as a weapon, and in fact, it is used as a weapon. But it's the only weapon in the film that actually you can use to create. And when Kubo actually uses it as a weapon, as an instrument of death, that's when it breaks.
So tell him
loves
that
weapons, so he's going to dig this.
he got that from his mom, and he got the gift of storytelling and singing and using, his force, his power, hopefully for forgiveness and for good. And he got that from his mother.
Excellent answer.
Yes.
Excellent.
Moms.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Kubo and the 2 strings, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
So next up is Moana. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Next up is Moana, the 7th film, I believe, by John and Ron. And, of course, Osnat is with them as well. Let's take a look at a clip, and we'll be back to talk about that.
You're a long ways past the reef.
Grandma?
Guess I chose the right tattoo.
Grandma! I tried, Grandma. I couldn't do it.
It's not your fault. I never should have put so much on your shoulders. If you are ready to go home, I will be with you. Why do you hesitate?
I don't know.
I know a girl from an island She stands apart from the crowd. She loves the sea and her people. She makes her whole family proud. Sometimes the world seems against you. The journey may leave a scar, but scars can heal and reveal just where you are. The people you love will change you. The things you have learned will guide you. And nothing on earth can silence the quiet voice still inside you. And when that voice starts to whisper, Moana, you've come so far. Moana, listen, do you know who you are?
Who am I? I am a girl who loves my island and the girl who loves the sea. It calls me. I am the daughter of the village chief. We are descended from voyagers who found their way across the world. And they call me. I've delivered us to where we are. I have journeyed farther. I am everything I've learned and more. Still it calls me. And the call isn't out there at all. It's inside me. It's like the tide, always falling and rising. I will carry you here in my heart. You remind me that come what may, I know the way. I am Moana.
All right, let's get John Musker, Ron Clements, and Oz Not Sure up here.
Wow.
Ron, okay, be honest. How much of making this film was just to go on the research trip?
Yeah, 90%.
Yeah.
It was hard, but someone had to go.
Pick your projects
Percentage.
carefully, particularly when you get older. I was just thinking, I was noticing that when Bill Croyer was talking about everybody being so young, and Rich Moore was kind of looking around, what's he talking about? That I think the important thing was he was saying relative to us.
Yes, we set the bar very, the aged bar is very high in our case.
Well, so beyond the design and cultural details, how much of that trip did affect the storytelling itself?
It profoundly affected the movie. Really, when we started, before we went, the movie was centered on the character of Maui, which we had kind of discovered reading Polynesian mythology, and we created a very simple story about that. But once we went on the trip, our development department developed a trip that was really centered around the culture. It was not a tourist thing. We weren't drinking little drinks with umbrellas and things.
Well, maybe.
Well, a little bit,
Well,
but
here and there. yes.
but they were
The
long
occasional
days.
umbrella. And Ron did get pulled up onto a dance floor once, and I did drawings of that, but we won't go into that now.
Was that where the stuff to be old thing came in there, or was there other aspects to the...
But no, we learned about the ocean when we were there. We learned about how intimate it was to everyone there.
It was a 3-week trip. We went to Fiji, Samoa, Tahiti, and it really was a deep dive into the culture. It was meeting people who grew up on islands, who lived their whole lives on islands, and meeting experts. We met archaeologists, anthropologists, and linguists, but we also met sailors and navigators and chiefs and villagers and basically the story of the movie came from that trip. We completely reinvented the story from pretty much from scratch. We kept Maui, but other than that, the story was...
So you had the basics of a story before you left, and then was that just an
Completely
outline?
changed.
Yeah. Outline form.
It was just kind of an outline when we left, yeah, and
And
it got reinvented.
We ended up also, we learned so much from the people that we met and the islands that we created, what we called our Oceanic Story Trust, where people that we'd met, experts in various fields that Ron was talking about, master tattoo artists, choreographers, became our trust throughout, just like we have our Story Trust, you have the Brain Trust up at Pixar, we also had our Oceanic Story Trust that we checked in with all along the way.
Did you get any tattoos? By the way?
Yeah.
No.
One of our development people
We
did.
don't want to see the one.
No,
okay,
you don't want to see them.
Actually, Jessica Julius
Yeah, we
went
do.
with us. I held her hand while she had a tattoo done to her in Samoa, traditionally, where it was literally hammered into her foot. It's a very lovely, basic tattoo, but yeah, she was very
but to
brave.
digress-
Way braver than we were. Yeah.
Digress for a second. Why is it the Pixar Brain Trust and the Disney Story Trust?
Oh,
Always wanted to.
This is on YouTube? No, I don't know.
I know Dan Gerson, who's used to say, when you say brain trust, you have to make air quotes. Brain trust.
Yeah, no one knows. I mean, so much of the movie is about the authenticity of that part of the world, and it's just so beautiful, and we love it. Even the casting, we talk a little bit about, I know the casting of the main character, which is such a,
Yeah.
so amazing. And
We were very, very lucky there. I think it's our big discovery on this movie. So we decided early on that we were hoping to cast the whole movie with people with Pacific Island roots. And we found in the end that we didn't have to compromise. We ended up with incredible actors. The only actor who's not with Pacific Island roots is Alan Tudyk, who's sort of our good luck charm, kind of like Atzenberger is at Pixar, and he plays the chicken. So we were very, very sincerely looking for the
Alan
right
went to
people.
Juilliard, and he
All that to call.
mastered chicken at Juilliard.
And so our young
Years, Julie.
voice of Moana we cast her when she was 14. She's Native Hawaiian, Ali Carvalho. And she turned 16 the week before the movie opened. She's Native Hawaiian, goes to the Native Hawaiian school system, dances hula. And all her training before this was basically hula and Glee Club. And here she is starring in a Disney movie and about to sing on the Oscar stage.
And she did not put herself up for audition. There was a casting agent in Hawaii that we were working with who had seen her in a promotional public service sort of thing that she did with some classmates, and just there's something about that girl. And
Listen to hundreds
so
and
she was asked to come in to audition, and when we looked at, like say there were 600 young women, we didn't see all 600, but we must have looked at 100 different auditions, and immediately with Ali, there was
You just
something.
knew.
And
there
it was an
something
open
right
call
there.
all over the world. People were submitting through YouTube. It was the thing in the Pacific Island community. So it's very cool.
So you cast Ali'i Carvalho, and I'm going to mess this up, the pronunciation, Dwayne Johnson.
Yes.
Just call him Rock.
Okay.
We call him DJ.
Yeah.
so
DJ,
we-
okay.
Another of our discoveries, you know.
Were there any other actors that you feel like didn't get shout-outs that you really brought a lot to the character?
Well, actually,
yes.
Rachel House, who did our grandmother
Yeah,
character,
she's
just there.
amazing.
Rachel House, fabulous.
Amazing actress.
And just sometimes in terms of the singing and the voice talent, and we've done a lot of musicals, ideally we would always like to have the same person do both, to do the acting and the singing. Sometimes we've had to compromise that, but certainly Rachel did her own singing, and Ali'i did her own
And
acting.
Dwayne,
And Dwayne.
Johnson did his own
Dwayne,
sing, so there's
So
that.
that was
It's amazing. I know. I'm just such a fan of all your guys' work, and I'm curious, just because of your history at the studio. You know, back in the old days, Jungle Book and Peter Pan and whatnot, there was a lot of.
We weren't there when they.
Well, I know you weren't there.
You're not
Steamboat Willie.
that old.
What was Steamboat Willie like?
Not that old.
That was Steamboat. It was my idea it was my idea to Walt.
yeah,
I said,
yeah.
I
When
said,
we leaned
Walt,
over to Walt, yeah.
Do it sound.
Come on,
said, "Come on, Mickey, with a whistle. It's genius." And Walt
I
said,
knew it.
"Sit down, shut up."
This is an exclusive here. In those days, you know, you see a lot of the old footage of them shooting actors for reference and so forth, and as animation has changed and going into CG, did you capture? How did you? I mean, the animation is so beautiful and subtle. Did you guys do anything like that on this film?
No.
Or was-
I mean, most of the films we've done, we've always shot live action. Pretty much all the films we've done, except Moana, we didn't shoot any live action. I think we were thinking that we would, because we always felt that was kind of a way to ground all the animators, to have something that gives a specific nature of the character. But I think the animators felt know, and I mean, there was choreography.
Yes.
Well, and also the animators, some of them shot their own reference. There's a room where they can actually get
Right.
reference. So it's like the classic extension of, with when you've got the mirror and you do the expressions. And so sometimes I would see a scene when it was blocked out, and I would ask the animator, did you shoot yourself doing this? And oftentimes they said, yeah, I did, just to get a loose idea. So I think that
They
did help
usually
ground
don't.
some of the
They usually
performance.
don't want us to see that.
Of course. What about the voice recording sessions? Did you record
Yeah,
those?
we
as well,
recorded all
video?
of those,
Yeah.
and the animators used that, and most of the actors came in for a session, and we also had animation supervisors on each character who were absolutely amazing.
Yeah, great
It is stunning.
group.
But Ali kind of, when she was recording all the time, she tied up her hair to get it out of the way of recording, and that found its way into the movie. And it was also a sort of a time saver because the hair is so complicated that if you had it tied up occasionally, both for Maui and her, it
The
was.
simulation team's like, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I know. They love that. Yeah.
And like you said,
I think one of them told Ali to tie her hair up at the recording set.
Like I said, Ali'i came in for like about an hour and just sat like we're sitting here, and the animators just asked her questions, and she answered the questions. But they're really not so interested in her answers. They're just watching like
her.
everything that she's doing and taking notes, and it shows up.
I'm always curious about where characters come from, which is, of course, next to impossible to answer. But I'm going to ask you, where'd the characters come from? Now, specifically, like Maui, obviously, he started from legend, and a certain amount comes from the actor. But can you point to anybody on your story team in the animation group or whatever, like moments maybe that really defined that character?
I mean, Dave Pimentel was our head of story, and he boarded the introduction.
With
My
John
initial-
Ripa, along with John Ripa.
Along with John Ripa, yeah. But at the time, he was boarded that. He was the sole head of the story. And I think Dave really poured a lot of his passion. Actually, what we did before our weekly sessions, we did a haka, and we could perform it for you now.
No, we
if you'd
can't.
like.
No, we won't.
Yeah.
No, we won't.
No, we really did. And
be the end of
Kamate, kaora, kaora. Yeah, we'll go into it. But anyway, but Dave was so
He would lead.
passionate.
He was
Dave
leading.
channeled the Maori, the great Haka-meisters of Maori culture, but Dave really brought a lot, I think. Yeah, but many people did. Dave Derrick, who storyboarded those sequences we just showed, Dave Derrick has Samoan heritage. His great-grandfather was from Samoa, and he really felt like this movie was kind of his love letter to his own culture. So he put a ton of himself. Really, all the story people did so much.
So
I
seeing
think
that
here
scene,
Dwayne is a huge part of it, though.
Okay.
When Dwayne's voice came, first of all,
Yeah.
he's half Samoan and cares very deeply and brought a lot from his own culture. He also kind of looks like a demigod, y'all. He really does. In
And he
person.
has cool
It's awesome.
tattoos. He
Does,
has his
yeah.
own cool tattoos.
I know we got to
Yeah.
appear at D23 one year with you guys, and
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dwayne was hanging around backstage, and as he goes up on stage, like all the guys, mysterious, are like, "Whoa, he's hot." All the guys, for some,
Right.
I guess it works both ways.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Always.
his story. But the character of Maui, for example, they were getting started with the myths, but he was a very tough character. I mean, they're always tough, but he's a very flawed character in a lot of ways, and he's kind of narcissistic, and that was the concept. And that actually comes from the mythology. We didn't just make that up. There's a lot of versions of Maui. He's a pan-Pacific demigod. There are different versions, but there's definitely the version that we have. But it was a problem kind of making him likable, because you really want in spite of those flaws, you want the audience to really, really like him. And it was really Dwayne that brought that thing that really made
He
him.
can say anything.
Dwayne and
You still think he's
Dwayne
cool.
and also Mini Maui. We didn't have Mini Maui to begin with, and Mini Maui was kind of a little mirror into the inside of Maui that told you that there was a little more going on in there, and that helped warm him up so that.
And for those that don't know, that was animated by Art Goldberg for the most part.
Goldberg,
Wonderful
yeah.
Goldberg.
In here.
And
That's so beautifully done. It's such a great idea.
Very nice.
What about, I mean, obviously the music, huge part of the film.
Very, very early on, we thought of this as a musical, and when we went to the islands, there was music all over. There's songs of hello, there's songs of farewell, there's songs in churches, there's songs in villages. The first night we were there in Fiji, they sang these beautiful hymns in this little village as the sun was setting, and it was very moving, very powerful. And we said we've got to capture that feeling. So it was really Osnat who found Opatai Fua'i, who was really the first part of the team, who has this band Tabaka. And I don't know if you want to talk about Opatai.
Yeah, I listened to all the Pacific Island music I could find over like 3 days. That was all I did. And every time I went, oh my God, that's good, it was always Opataya and Tevaka. So I did what you do when that happens. I picked up the phone and I called him.
That's what producers do.
So we do. Yeah, by the way, that's the answer to what
Producer
producers
right
do.
there with
There
the
you go.
phone.
You just call and you go, hey, want to come play? And he goes, yeah. And he came, and then we went to New York to.
We actually hired Lin before Hamilton. No one believes Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Just saying.
He had done In the Heights, and we went to New York, and we interviewed a number of different lyricists. And actually, we loved Lin's work on In the Heights because he kind of segued from Spanish into English, and he was very clever, and he wrote these openings to the Tonys that were very funny.
And we said, what are you up to? And he said he's working on this sort of hip-hop version of a musical about the Founding Fathers for the public. And we're like, month and a half, tops. I got him full-time. Didn't quite work out that way.
We all said, good luck with that one, Lin.
The original idea was that Lin at some point would work full-time on our movie. But
we would, he would be all dressed as Hamilton. Actually, we would meet twice a week. We'd be Skyping because Optaya is in New Zealand. Mark Mancina, our composer, is in Carmel. There's Lin at the theater dressed as Alexander Hamilton on our Skype.
Yes. And he's eating his Chinese food before he's going to go on stage. He's like talking about the songs.
And all our demos were done by the cast of Hamilton. So we had the best demos ever.
Wow.
When the Skype would end, would you just say, point the thing at the stage? We'll just watch the show.
Let's just watch the show.
Compared to like Alan Menken and Ashman, how was the relationship? Were they as involved? Was Lin-Manuel as involved in the storytelling? Because from what I understand, those guys really helped, like on Mermaid, craft kind of the structure of the thing.
Yeah, Jared Bush, our writer, was great, and I would do some too, but we'd often like write out a scene for Lin to kind of bounce off of, like, this is the story point that has to be accomplished before the song would get written. Sometimes though, Lin would weigh in, and he would, like, even like that scene we had, just that we just showed, Lin was very instrumental in articulating her point of view from an acting point of view, how you were going to get from A to B. The big climax in the film when she faces her down in the trench, that grew out of Lin's idea for reprising actually the music from the opening with the ocean. We were trying to figure out what can we play it off of
saves the
against.
turtle and the.
So Lin was very involved, really. He was a storyteller.
As was
part of the team,
Optaya.
as was Optaya. And We Know the Way really was the first song written on the movie, and that was Optaya channeling all his passion for the culture.
We also had Mark Mancina, who worked on Lion King and many live-action films, and Tarzan and Brother Bear, and he was kind of the glue to kind of fuse the roots music of Optaya with Lin's more theatrical kind of approach to things. And that was a weird thing because the team was very spread out. Mark Mancina's in Carmel, Optaya was usually in Australia, and then Lin was in New York. But once in a while they were able to get together, and when we had off-sites, sometimes they would be able to come out.
In fact, when Lin first joined the show, so he found out on a Friday that he was joining the show. He also, by the way, found out that same Friday that he was going to be a father for the first time, which was very exciting. And then we had him on an airplane on Saturday to join us in New Zealand. We were there doing research, and we went to a music festival. So Lin, Optaya, and Mark met the first time at the music festival. We're at the festival, and they invite, there's dances of the different islands at the festival, and they invite Lin to come up and dance. We don't know
Not
the
him
guy.
being Lin, just pulling him out of the
They
crowd.
just
grab
pull him. They just
They're
pull him.
grabbing people from the crowd. And
It's
they
a
just
little
happen to grab
competition.
Lin.
We hardly know each other. We're just getting to know each other. He gets on there, and boy, does he shake his booty. It was awesome.
Yeah.
He won the first prize. We actually, there's a little scene of it on our Blu-ray that's coming out in a couple of weeks. And he just kind of went nuts. And we're like, that's the guy. We love this guy.
We figured he would win a Pulitzer if he could win that dance contest in New Zealand. So.
A couple of Tonys,
What's okay? I mean, you asked sort of the brain trust, the story trust. You've produced it at both studios, Pixar and Disney.
Not that question.
Come on.
Okay.
What's it? It'd be nice.
Okay.
I mean, I've learned so much. You're such an amazing producer. It is rare to have someone that's across both studios. Can you speak to it a little bit? I mean, just what?
Well, I think what we have in common in both studios is a deep, deep love for animation and a great legacy. We share the same legacy of animation. The just heart and the humor of Disney. We also share the great John Lasseter, who is sort of an inspiration and a guiding force for all of us. Honestly, today, the difference between the two studios, as I see it, is made up of the people who happen to be in each studio. I think our process is the same, our commitment to lead with a creative and with story, and to let that inspire the technology and let that further the art. I think that's all shared, and there just happen to be a few different people there, plus you all have fog.
We do. It's a lot colder.
You guys, this is your first foray into CG. Were there any sort of challenges or things you had to change about your process because of that?
Well, the whole process was very different. I mean, story is kind of the same, and recording voices is kind of the same, and even the music and the songs. But the whole production process is at least from our point of view, having done all these hand-drawn films, very different. We had to really kind of, and Osnat, it was helpful for us because Osnat was familiar with that process, and most of the people working on our movie were familiar with that
Well,
process.
I would hope so.
We were
It
not.
was, it was easier for us in 2D to understand the sort of the step from one department to another, and it was a constant source of comedy in a way, because we would see these scenes in dailies and we'd be looking at a shot and we'd say, "So is that the real sky?" And I said, "No, that's not the real sky. That's this place. Oh no, the real sky's come. Forget that." And then we'd see trees in the shot and we'd say, "But those are the real trees, right?" No, those aren't the real trees. The real trees, we're working on the trees. The trees are coming later. And then we'd say, "So we can ignore those rocks now." "No, those are the real rocks." How are we supposed to know? I don't know.
You're like,
I still
on
don't know.
Steamboat Willie, this was...
Steamboat Willie, well, we told them all.
Whistle.
We said, the mouse with the thing and the hay. Synchronized sound. It's like you go by behind the sheet and all that. Okay, yeah.
It's innovative.
Oh, my God.
All right.
You were there, I tell you.
Not true.
I think we're almost out of time, but again, we have a bonus question for you guys.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
does this relate to banjos or anything?
No, this was that was a pretty good question, actually. And again, I'll read
My
it.
son.
Yeah, it's my son. But I'll read it as he said it. How does Maui walk on the lava monster when he's made of lava? I thought you weren't supposed to touch lava.
Oh,
I
good
thought it was a fair
point.
question.
Good point.
What am I supposed to tell him?
You want to take that on?
Well,
It's a cartoon. What?
Fair?
it's a cartoon. I like that one.
Fair?
Please tell your son there are these things called cartoons, and we make them.
Ron and John said, "Take it easy, William."
Well, thank you very much, you guys.
Thank you.
Fantastic
Love the
film.
movie so much.
Thank you, Jonas. It was actually a good question.
Yeah, we call him later.
Next up, we have My Life as a Zucchini. Unfortunately, as has been mentioned, the filmmakers are not with us, but we will take a look at the clip, and then we'll stall for time.
Yes, we'll stall for time. Thank you.
Le matin, on se lève, et puis il y a Ahmed qui a encore fait pipi au lit. Et puis après, on se lave, sauf Simon, parce que Simon, il fait toujours semblant de se laver. Et puis Jujube, il mange le dentifrice, parce que sa maman, elle lui a dit que c'était bon pour la santé.
Voilà, l'orang-outan, le gorélie, le chimpanzé commun.
À l'école, Monsieur
Là,
Paul,
c'est bon.
il nous raconte l'histoire des hommes qui étaient là avant nous.
On vivait.
Ils vivaient quand le savon, il n'existait même pas. Et puis, ils prenaient jamais de douche. Comme Simon.
Monsieur!
Et puis après, Jujube, il demande à aller à l'infirmerie à cause du dentifrice.
Oui, Jujube.
Nous, pour l'instant, on fait les hommes de Cro-Magnon.
Bon, bah, c'est bien tout ça. Ça a l'air chouette.
Ouais, c'est chouette.
Qu'est-ce qu'il y a, mon grand?
Non, ce sera moins bien quand tu reviendras plus.
Tu crois que je viens par obligation?
Je sais pas, c'est ton travail.
Mais non, c'est pas mon travail. Je viens te voir parce que je t'aime bien.
Moi aussi, je t'aime bien.
Ah! Oh, hé!
Ils aiment pas trop les flics, je crois. Surtout Ahmed, il croit que c'est toi qui as mis son père en prison.
Bonjour, madame.
Mais qu'est-ce qu'elle me fait, celle-là? On se réveille. Aïe! Bouge tes fesses, j'ai pas que ça à faire, moi.
Mais ben, elle est aimable comme une porte de prison, celle-là.
Oh non!
Dur, c'est dur.
Non, elle n'est pas là. Ah ben, elle doit être dans la cour.
Je m'appelle Camille. Bonjour. Moi, c'est Courgette.
So as we say, the filmmakers are unfortunately not here. They're up for a César.
Yeah, they're
this evening.
We're so
Right,
disappointed
tomorrow.
they weren't here. Yeah, so we wish them luck. Everybody.
Yes.
But we love this movie. I mean,
Yeah.
it was in some way such a, I don't know, this one really surprised me and just hit me harder than I somehow assumed it would. It's just such a sophistication to it and simple beauty. And it's sort of one of the things you talk about in animation, just the art of caricature and just and how you can use something so, at one level so simple but get so deep. It's just such a great example of that. I just think it's wonderful.
Yeah, it didn't have a lot of the things you kind of associate with films, animated films, animals or sidekick characters or whatever, but it was still so perfectly appropriate for animation. You mentioned being reminded of the Peanuts movies, and
Yeah.
sort of sense of truth to it.
Well, yeah, in a way, it's like it's the children, but there's a real adult sophistication to them. It kind of echoed Peanuts for some reason to me.
Yeah, which we read that it was based on an autobiography, first of all, which may have been some of the reason for that sort of sense of truth to it, but that they recorded the kids in a room all together in order so they could kind of discover the story as it went instead of popping right. For those of you who don't know, most of the time in animation, because of production, you'll jump to scene 32 and then back to sequence 2 and so on and back and forth. So this was all done in order with props and set pieces. They put foam all around it so that the kids could have could kind of act out the scene together as a group, which I thought was, well, that's a pretty cool idea. Maybe.
Well, the guy who loves schedules
Yeah.
would have loved that because you just do it right
Yeah,
in
that's
order,
true.
and you don't have to worry about it. So we're really disappointed they're not here to talk to and do a Q&A, but we're really honored to present the film. On one hand, I'm glad they're not here because the question I got from William wasn't even a question; it was a statement, and I think it was a statement to just make his sister mad because his statement was, "I like zucchinis." And then she said she hated them, and then they got into a fight, and no question ever came out of it. So I was sort of embarrassed that was what I had to give them. But I had to be honest. That's what came out of it, right?
Fair enough.
Should we move on to the next
I think
to the next
it's
picture?
a good cue to move on. Next up, we have The Red Turtle, which is a beautiful film by director Michael Dudok-DeWitt, produced by Studio Ghibli, and we'll talk more about that after the clip.
Great.
Unfortunately, Michael Docter is not here again because of the Césars. They got to change the date on that. But tonight we have the wonderful, legendary producer Toshio Suzuki-san. Will you please come up and join us? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Such an honor to be up here with you. One quick story, we were, Suzuki-san was so generous to host us at Studio Ghibli a few years back, and we got to tour and so forth and see the studio, and we wanted to be cool. As they say, they told us to be cho cool, and he offered us cigarettes. So Pete and I, it was the only time we ever smoked cigarettes and acted very
But
cool.
smoking is bad, kids.
And then we went outside, but in front of him, we were very cool. So thank you again. Suzuki-san, this was Studio Ghibli's first external co-production. Is that correct?
初めてですね。全く初めてです。
Yes, it is the very first one.
The first one. And how did it? How did the studio become involved? How was that merged? How did the project begin?
マイケルに僕が長編を作ってみないかって問いかけたのが、提案をしたのが2006年でした。
It was 2006 when I suggested to Michael that he might want to make a feature film.
僕は彼のね、それから数年前にそこからね2000年ぐらいに作ったたった8分間のすごい作品、アカデミー賞取ってますけれど、ファーザー&ドーター大好きだったんですよ。で、僕が思ったのはこのマイケルが長編を作ったらどうなるんだろうって、それを彼に提案しました。
In 2008, he had made a film called Father and Daughter that was only an 8-minute film. It won an Academy Award for short animation film. And I just loved that film. So I wondered what it would be like if Michael made a feature-length film.
そしたら彼がその場で興味があると、やりたいと。ただし条件が1個だけある。その条件とはジブリが手伝ってくれること。
And he agreed right on the spot, saying, "Sure, I would love to make a feature film, but I have one condition: that Studio Ghibli be involved."
それをきっかけに本当にね一緒に作ることになりました。
So that was the start of our working together.
It's amazing.
I've read somewhere or seen an interview with Michael who he claimed that he came up with this idea in one day. Is that true? That can't possibly be true.
Keep in mind, he's not here.
それからちょっと間を置くんですけれど、本当に提案したのはね、実はファザー&ドーターそのものを長くしたらどうなるだろうって、そんなこともちょっと考えたんですよね。それでファザー&ドーターっていうのは一人の女性の一生を描く。でそこから彼がだったら今度は男版をやってみよう、そんなふうに考えたんじゃないかと僕は想像してます。
Actually, I was thinking, what if he made Father and Daughter, that theme, into a feature-length film? And that is, of course, about one woman's life. And I think what he turned it into was that he would like to make a film about one man's life. And that's what turned into The Red Turtle.
And then how would he show you storyboards, or how would the interaction between yourself or whoever was affiliated at the studio, how did you work together?
最初はですね、何しろ彼はロンドンに住んでる。で僕らは東京ですよね。それで彼が一番最初脚本、そしてストーリーボードをやり始めました。でそれをもとにEメールと電話でいろんなやり取りをしました。ところがですね、これなかなかね、ロンドンと東京ですからコミュニケーションがうまくいかない。それで僕らはですね、いろんな意見をダイレクトに直接話し合いたいから、彼は日本が好きだってことを僕分かってたんで、日本へ来ないかってそう誘いました。
So he's based in London, and we're based in Tokyo. He gave us samples of the screenplay and the storyboards, and we communicated by email and telephone. But London and Tokyo are kind of far distant from each other, and it's hard to communicate these ideas that we needed to exchange. So I thought it would be much better if we could talk directly. And I knew that he liked Japan, so I suggested that he might want to come to Japan to meet with us.
で、スタジオジブリのそばに僕らアパートメントを用意しました。それでそこへ彼に来てもらって、それでそこから丸1ヶ月間もうこの内容についていろいろ話し合って、そこで基本的なシナリオ、それから大きなストーリーボード、それが決まりました。
So we arranged that he could live in an apartment near Studio Ghibli, and he came, and we spent a whole month in discussions about the film. And so he completed the screenplay and the storyboard pretty much during that time initially.
Was it all done visually, and how much changed as you worked?
そのビジュアル的にも
なんつったらいいかな、彼ってマイケルってね、なんていうんだろう、自分でストーリーボードを作ってそれを動かしてみて、ショットとして成立するかどうか、それを一個一個確かめる人なんですよね。それでそれによってシナリオも影響を受ける、それからストーリーボードも再び影響を受ける、そういうことが起こる人だったんで、これは結構時間かかりましたね。
Michael is the type that has to write the screenplay and the storyboards by himself, and then he has to move the storyboard to make sure that it will work in a shot, each shot, and he has to confirm that. And of course, that then affects the screenplay as well as the storyboard. So it took a long time.
How?
でも僕ね、ファザー&ドーターを見てて、最初から時間がかかると思ってました。
Because I had seen Father and Daughter, I thought that it would take a long time. I wasn't surprised.
It didn't surprise him. Is that you've produced so many great films? Was that process different than some of the films, or working with Miyazaki-san? Was it a different creative process?
いや、もう全然違いますね。本当に僕は違うと思いました。とにかくね、ワンショットね、 仮の動きを作ってそれで成立するかどうかを確かめるんですから。
It was very different from the way we work at Studio Ghibli. This business of confirming each shot, taking a test shot and then confirming it, we don't do that at Studio Ghibli.
だから僕が一番心配したのはですね、実はね、これでいけるというストーリーボードは、それからしばらく時間かかるし、それから制作体制をどうするかにも時間かかって、実際の制作が入るとき、僕が一番心配したのは、というのはいろんなね、ヨーロッパ中からいろんなアニメーターに集まってもらったんですけれど、最終的にマイケルがその雇った人たちを全部クビにして一人で作る、そういう状態に陥ることが僕は一番心配でした。
So he would make the storyboard, and then when it got into the production phase, what really worried me was that he would get all these different animators from various countries in Europe, and then in the end he would fire them all and then make this film completely on his own.
I want to ask about what you were talking about, the confirming each shot. What exactly do you mean by that? What was the process there?
なんていうの、とりあえず書いちゃいますよね。とにかく。書く？ドローするってこと。
You would draw them, right? And then see if it works, and then redo it.
でこれはうまくいかないからやめようって。やっぱり彼絵を優先させますね。お話よりも。
Rather than prioritizing the story, he prioritized the drawing. So if his drawing didn't work well, then he'd want to redo it from scratch.
But Miyazaki-san also draws all of his own storyboards, is that correct?
でも彼の場合はそのなんていうんだろう、最初から自分の得意な手法をそのストーリーボードの中へなんていうのかな、ストーリーボードを書くときに大体自分の得意なことを先にやってるんですよね。だから彼は合理的なんですよ、宮崎駿は。
The way Miyazaki does it is that he uses what he is most adept at in the storyboards. So in a way, it's efficient the way he works.
Our schedule guy's not going to like this. This is going to take a long time.
先ほどに関わってる人は嫌だっていう。
いやだから宮崎駿という人はね、実はちょっと宮崎駿の話しちゃいますね。彼シナリオを書かないんですよ。ね、いきなりストーリーボードから書き始める。それでね、2時間ぐらいのものを書くんですけどね、宮崎駿の場合はそのね、なんでシナリオを書かないかって言ったら、自分の書きやすい、ね、絵として書きやすいものを優先するからなんですよね。僕はそう思ってますね。
Well, let me explain a little bit about how Miyazaki works. He doesn't write a screenplay. He tells the story through the storyboards, and then he's able to come up with a 2-hour story. And the reason why is that for him, he puts in what he's most adept at in the storyboard, and it really feeds his capabilities well.
This doesn't have anything to do with the red turtle, but I think a lot of people might be curious what you're doing next, and I'd love to hear about that.
Take your time.
宮崎が引退宣言をして3年半ですかね。
I think it must be about 3.5 years since Hayao Miyazaki announced his retirement.
で僕記者を前に記者発表をやったんですけれど、僕宮崎駿がいてその隣に僕がいたんですけれど、もう2時間の引退記者会見、僕は宮崎の横にいてすごい嬉しかったんですよね。
So we had a news conference in front of reporters, and I was sitting right next to Miyazaki when he made this announcement at that news conference, and it was like a 2-hour news conference. And I was very happy and relieved at that conference.
Good answer.
これから僕もね、自分の人生を生きよう。
Now I can start to live my own life.
Congratulations.
やりたいって言い出すのに、もう一度復帰したい、現役に復帰したいって言い出すのに、1年を要さなかったですね。
It didn't take 1 year for him to want to get back to working again.
で実はですね、このレッドタートルと関係があるんですよ。でどういうことかって言ったら、レッドタートルが、ね、僕がやってることを彼知ってましたから、でそのラッシュを見たりいろんなことやってるじゃないですか。もう彼が気にして、俺でもう一つ言うとね、このジブリでなんて言うんだろう、自分以外の他の人が作品を作る、やっぱり嫌だったんでしょうね。
I think it's sort of related to the Red Turtle, actually. He knew that I was working on producing the Red Turtle, and he would watch some of the dailies that would be shown, and he was very concerned about the film. But I think he was also a little annoyed that somebody else other than he was working on a film that Studio Ghibli was connected with.
余計なことばっかりしてますけれど、もう最後簡単に言います。
Okay, I'm talking on and on, but I'll give you one piece of information.
忘れもしません。去年の7月1日。去年の7月1日ですね。彼が僕のところに企画書を持ってきました。ある企画書。長編映画です。
I won't forget, on July 1st of last year, he brought to me a planning document for a feature-length film.
で、ね、彼が言い出したのが20分分のストーリーボードを書くからね、自分にこれが面白いかどうかを鈴木さん判断してくれと、そう言ってきました。
He said he would draw a storyboard for about 20 minutes worth of this film idea, and I want you, Suzuki, to decide whether it's worth it to make this film or not.
去年の暮れ、僕はそれを読みました。
So I looked at the storyboard at the end of last year.
僕すごく悩んだんですよ。ものすごく悩みました。
And I really thought hard about it.
内容はね、彼ね、内容がすごい面白かったんです。
It was a really interesting story.
面白かったけれど、ここで僕が面白いと言えば、僕の老後はなくなってしまうんですよ。
But if I say it's interesting and we go into production, then my retirement will be gone.
心を鬼にして僕は言いました。面白いと本人を向かって言いました。
So I just decided that I would tell him the truth and that I told him face to face that it was interesting.
今も一生懸命東京で作ってます。
So we're working hard on it in Tokyo.
Yay! But before we wrap up, the film is so beautiful and it's just such a masterpiece. From what you originally heard to what is on the screen, what did it meet your expectations? Did it exceed your expectation? Can you talk a little about how you feel as a finished motion picture?
マイケルはですね、僕の期待以上のことをやってくれました。だから僕はマイケルにこの映画ができた時に本当に心の底から感謝しました。で本人に言いました。
Michael really exceeded my expectations considerably. So I really told Michael that he had done a wonderful job when he completed the film.
Very true. We have time for one more quick one?
Yeah, I think
Is it okay?
we need
One
the
more?
bonus kid question.
Yeah, this is, again, from my son William, who's 5. Does the turtle stand for the relationship between mankind and nature? And how would you speak to... No, I'm kidding. Here's his real question. That was Pete's question. This is a tough one. Brace yourself. How did the turtle get red? That's good. Another good question.
これはですね、レッドタートルっていうタイトルに一番僕悩んだのはもしかしたら僕なんですよ。で、なんでその赤でなきゃいけないのか、もうこれ何回もねマイケルに聞きました。でも彼の説明聞いててもさっぱりわかんないんですよ。
I really was concerned about the title, Red Turtle. And so I asked Michael many times why he picked that title and why the turtle had to be red. And I couldn't quite understand what his answers were.
I'm really proud of
だ
my
けど
son
分か
right
ったの
now.
は要するに主人公のあの男、あれがマイケルであることは間違いないです。そしてレッドタートルは彼のワイフですよ、奥さんです。
So what I finally understood was that the main character was Michael himself, and the red turtle was his wife.
Thank you so much. What an amazing, amazing film.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Suzuki-san, the red turtle. Set up our final clip.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we're almost to the end. We're going to bring up one more clip from Zootopia, and then we will be back.
Zootopia.
Over here!
Yes?
What can you tell us about the animals that went savage?
Well, the animals in question, are they all different species? Yes. Yes, they are.
Okay, so what is the connection?
Oh, all we know is that they are all members of the predator family.
So, predators are the only ones going savage?
That is yes, that is accurate, yes.
Why? Why is this happening?
We still don't know. But, it may have something to do with biology.
What do you mean by that?
A biological component, you know, something in their DNA.
In their DNA? Can you elaborate on that, please?
Yes. What I mean is, thousands of years ago, predators survived through their aggressive hunting instincts. For whatever reason, they seem to be reverting back to their primitive savage ways.
Of course. Could it happen again?
It is possible. So we must be vigilant. And we at the ZPD are prepared and are here to protect you.
We're more mammals go savage.
What is being done to protect us?
Have you considered a mandatory quarantine on predators?
Okay, thank you, Officer Hops. That's all the time that we have. No more questions.
Was I okay?
Oh, you did fine.
Oh, that went so fast. I didn't get a chance to mention you or say anything about how we...
Oh, I think you said plenty.
What do you mean?
Clearly there's a biological component? These predators may be reverting back to their primitive, savage ways? Are you serious?
I just stated the facts of the case. I mean, it's not like a bunny could go savage.
Right, but a fox could, huh?
Nick, stop it. You're not like them.
Oh, there's a them now.
know what I mean? You're not that kind of predator.
The kind that needs to be muzzled? The kind that makes you think you need to carry around fox repellent? Yeah, don't think I didn't notice that little item the first time we met. So, let me ask you a question. Are you afraid of me? Do you think I might go nuts? You think I might go savage? You think I might try to eat you? I knew it. Just when I thought somebody actually believed in me, huh? Probably best if you don't have a predator as a partner.
Nick! Nick!
Officer Hobbs, were you just threatened by that predator?
No, he's my friend.
We can't even trust our own friends?
That is not what I said. Please!
Are we safe?
Have any other foxes gone savage?
More bad news in this city gripped by fear. A caribou is in critical condition, the victim of a mauling by a savage polar bear. This, the 27th such attack, comes just 1 week after ZPD officer Judy Hopps connected the violence to traditionally predatory animals.
Meanwhile, a peace rally organized by pop star Gazelle was marred by protest.
Go back to the forest, predator!
I'm from the savannah!
Zootopia is a unique place. It's a crazy, beautiful, diverse city where we celebrate our differences. This is not the Zootopia I know. The Zootopia I know is better than this. We don't just blindly assign blame. We don't know why these attacks keep happening, but it is irresponsible to label all predators as savages.
It's not my image.
We cannot let fear divide us. Please give me back the Zootopia I love.
Amazing. I just hate it when the clips end. I want to watch these whole
I
movies.
know,
Please welcome to the stage directors Byron Howard, Rich Moore, Clark Spencer's here. Everybody's here. Fellas. Congratulations. Gentlemen, how are you? How are you?
It is almost a shame you have to listen to us blab instead of watching the movie. So who started all this? Where did it come from?
Well, actually, we started about 5 years ago. You know, when you pitched to John Lasseter, Pete, you guys know this, of course. Like when John,
You know this man, John Lasseter?
This guy, he's got Hawaiian shirts. He's very friendly.
Yeah.
When you first pitch ideas to John, he wants you to not come up with just one idea, but he asks you to pitch 3 or 4 or like 5 or 6. I think we actually pitched about 6 different ideas to John, and one of the things that they all had in common, there were 2 that kind of stood out to him. There was one called Pug the Bounty Hunter, which was about a space pug, a dog that kind of went around the universe capturing space criminals and was full of cute animals. And then there was another one that he liked that was called The Island of Dr. Meow. It's a good title, right?
Yeah.
And Island of Dr. Meow. And this is amazing because you'll see these movies change so much in the years that they get produced.
And that became Zootopia.
That became Zootopia. But this was about a mad scientist on a desert island who was a cat, a 6-foot-tall cat who had a serum, like a savage serum, that made people into animals, brought out the primal nature of human beings and turned them into animals. That savage serum idea was around even like 5 years back. And so John said, what these things have in common, like he liked the worlds and stuff, and he said, I don't know if any one of these is it, but he did love the fact that they were talking animal movies, which we hadn't done at Disney for a long time. Like I grew up on Robin Hood,
Right.
I grew up on Ichabod and Mr. Toad, and he said, well, we should do this, but you guys really have to do research and figure out a way to make a talking animal movie like you've never seen before. So we did tons of research, and actually the first iteration of this was actually a spy movie. We had the fox and the rabbit thing, but spy movies were really big about 5 years ago. Like the new James Bond was just coming out, the Daniel Craig, and we're like all hyped up about spy movies. But the more we pitched this idea, everyone is really interested in the first act in this animal city, and as soon as they left the animal city to get to the real spy business, everyone kind of lost interest, and so we really dove in and to the idea of maybe this first act with the animal city should be the whole thing, and that's when it really turned into this police procedural with the kind of the guy from the street and the cop, and that's where it kind of evolved from there.
Were you going through story reels on all these iterations? I mean, the whole way? Were you screenwriting or sort of a combo? What was the process?
That was pretty early at that stage. I mean, these guys, Rich is part of the Story Trust, and Clark was involved in as well. Like we were
not the Brain Trust.
No, not the Story Trust. Registered trademark, copyright picture.
But
we're just not smart enough.
We're not.
We're just not that bright.
We like stories.
We like stories.
Stories are good.
We love a good story, but
the brains, nope.
There is no world where I would ever be part of something called a brain trust, so it's good that it worked out.
Story Trust works, yeah.
Story Trust, yeah, that works.
It's about stories.
I like stories.
But back then, I mean, we were kind of in like the concept stage. Like we would come up with outlines and sort of like mock sort of things, and we were talking about characters. The predator-prey thing is interesting because that's another one of the ideas that stuck around very early on. And once we rolled this into talking about it being more of a detective story, then we really started to look at, okay, well, predators and prey are two different groups, just like we have different groups in our own human society. And one of the facts we found out in doing lots of research into animals, and this is true, in the animal world, it's 90% prey animals and 10% predators. And we thought that's a really interesting minority thing. And that started us talking about this idea of bias and stereotype. And it was just a weird idea for an animated movie to do that, to talk, like especially a Disney animated movie. That's not typically what Disney animated movies do. But everyone we talked to got very excited about it. Everyone at the studio, Iger, Alan Horn, John Lasseter, Ed, we all just got really into this idea that we could talk about something that's been so terrible for everyone to deal with over the generations, and particularly in the last couple of years as things have kind of blown up in the news, and to talk about it as kind of a 21st century fable using animals as analogs for human beings got everyone very interested.
That's actually a fact that as we meet with John, he has mentioned this film quite often about really wanting to say something with the films. And so it's because of this film that's become now a big thing for. So thank you.
Yeah, now we have to say something.
Say something for film.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think we're all kind of trying
Murder
to
is bad.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my next one.
We're always,
that's the core ingredient.
Yeah.
It is the balance, right? I mean, we're always trying to, in our films too, we're really interested in talking about stuff, but you don't want to be lectury, right? And this film has...
Yeah, we didn't want it to be a polemic or a lecture.
Did you ever fall into that, do you feel, along the way?
We would always try to kind of skirt around that because there is nothing I dislike more than a movie or a show that talks down to you as an adult, as a child, and tries to teach you a lesson. Like I always enjoyed films or TV shows that entertained, but also left me thinking, where I would kind of come away from it wondering, well, when in my life did I feel like that? Or maybe if I had handled myself differently, like the main character did, maybe it would have worked out differently. So that was what we were always trying to make it a piece of entertainment first, and trying to kind of have something important to say at its core, but never feeling like we're up on a soapbox and trying to lecture that racism is bad and discrimination is bad. And that's, and I think what really cracked it open for us is when Judy, the main character, we said, okay, she's got to be a very flawed character. We can't make this a kind of an Eagle Scout kind of character that's going to waltz in to Zootopia and discover that there's, that the city is flawed and Judy is going to cure racism, We wanted to make sure that there was, that she was culpable too, that, as much as we love her, that there's something in her, and we always would talk about her like a character that would say, like, discrimination, racism, that's my parents' generation. That's them. I don't have that, And to work with a main character that you love, that's appealing, and is such kind of a character that is so ambitious, but then has this one little sliver of a problem in her, and just doing her job kind of brings it out and then affects this relationship that she has with this other character that she's met along the way. That was really exciting to me as a filmmaker, as well as taking this kind of trope of anthropomorphic animals that Disney has done so well over the years, and to be able to kind of take those designs and that sensibility and bring it into kind of new technology and into the 21st century.
You guys did such a great job with it, because it is such a, on one hand, an echo of some of those films, but in such a sophisticated way. It just blew my mind. Clark, talk a little bit about just harnessing all this. I mean, like all these films, takes hunks of lives, right, to get made. And this one sounds like, there was...
How many lives were...
A lot of lives.
Rolled over.
A lot of lives. But I mean, part of the job is, trying to harness, these ideas and carve out the time and so forth to let the great ones rise. And can you talk a little bit about the process of working with these guys and getting this film from the original idea to the screen?
Well, they're amazing people to work with. I'd worked with Byron on Bolt, and I'd worked with Rich on Wreck-It Ralph, so to get to work with both of them on the movie was amazing. What I loved about the movie from the beginning was this idea of the topic of really talking about bias and stereotype, but I also loved the world. I really remember early on as they pitched this concept of this all-animal city where humans never existed, where we were going to have different districts that the animals live in, Sahara Square, Tundra Town, the Rainforest District. We're going to have all these different animals, but we're also going to use scale, have real scale. So a giraffe is 95 times bigger than the mouse. So that all the things within the city have to actually accommodate those different kinds of animals. Each of the animals need to have their own type of fur, so their own groom. It was really researched at the microscopic level to make sure it was as real as it could be to each individual animal, that we wanted a muscle and skin system so that the big animals like Bogo could really feel that kind of huge sense of scale that they have in them. We want to have a wind system that allows there to be the ability for fur to move. It was something we'd seen in all of our research, that animals out in the real world, they always have some level of movement in the fur. So it just kept adding up in terms of the things that the team wanted to embark on. But as has been said tonight over and over again in all these films, is the incredible ability of the teams that we get to work with coming together and saying they want to solve that for you. So when the directors would say, can we? They would say, yes, we can, and then we'd go figure those pieces of it out, because we didn't have any of that technology. We had never done a movie this big. When we worked on Bolt, there's one shot in Bolt where the dog puts his head out a window to have that experience of having the wind blow through the fur. We could not actually move the fur. It's actually distortion in that one shot, and we have 1,800 shots where the fur is constantly moving in this film. So just to see how we've kind of grown as a studio has been amazing.
Yeah, one of the things that stands out to me is just the sets. Just the detail and the scale and the scope, and it just never feels cheated. And we know some of these things. We all in this room know where the cheats are. And can't see the seams in this movie. Yeah. Almost frustratingly so.
There was a lot of talk about that up at work after the film came out. People were like, oh my gosh.
We better get to it. Yeah. This isn't a question. This is just like, oh my God, it's amazing. It never ends, and it's so beautiful. And congratulations.
Thanks.
Well, limitless.
What's the secret?
Hold on.
Oh, the secret is it's hire a German guy to design the city. Well, actually, we did hire a German guy. There's a German guy named Matthias Lechner, and he's one of our amazing production designers.
The secret is Germany.
Yeah,
Germany.
Who knew?
Very precise and detail-oriented. And so, and the thing is that we all spent that early part of this research together. Like that first year and a half involved like amazing research trips and tons of study into real science. We had people come in who talked to us about how real cities grow, and we looked at Paris. Paris evolved in kind of this snail shell shape. If you look at a map, it's like these little districts that grew out from that central island, and
that's why they like to eat snails.
That's why they eat snails.
That's why they like them. Yeah.
And then this idea came up that Zootopia would be based around this watering hole where these animals first sort of made peace. And so if you look in the central part of the city, that fountain in the middle is supposed to be the watering hole where animals came together and drank together in peace. And it sort of was this neat idea that, that's going to be the savanna area, and then everything else built around it is sort of artificial. Like these animals have created specific areas like Tundra Town and Sahara Square to fit the needs of each species. And Matthias, being this crazy, awesome, genius German guy, figured it out. And he said, if you had enough money and determination, you could actually make this work, because he built huge air conditioning walls and heating walls, and the environments, and the melt off from Tundertown actually feeds the steam cannons that keeps the rainforests like working.
It could be done, folks.
It could be done.
It
We
can
can
be
do
done.
it.
It's like the original
So we're gonna
Epcot
start
or
a
something.
Kickstarter tonight.
Scale this.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and you guys know John. John gets into this stuff.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
John is a
John said,
research
"Is there going to be a
junkie."
train?"
Yeah,
Of course.
And there was a train.
Yeah, sure.
And obviously, this, like so many of our films, the story changed quite a lot in even the last year. Was the city affected by any of those changes, the story changes?
You know, I think that not really. The city had kind of been built, but it was, I think,
had
the
the
spirit
assets,
behind
and
the
then-
city was.
Yeah, and a lot of the scenes that took place, because we used to have a whole scene around that watering hole. Remember when the character Bellwether is explaining to Judy, you know, how the city started. So it wasn't that the city changed that much. It was just where we shot around the city. You know, where the different locations that we went to.
We did build out, you know, that hotel, the tall palm tree hotel. We had an awesome sequence in there, and it was to die for. It was beautiful, but oh well.
But we're renting it out.
Renting
so
it
if
out
anyone
for
has an
space.
animated film that they'd like to shoot in
That's what Bob
a palm
Peterson always
tree
says.
hotel.
Bob always says, "Too good, out it goes. Throw it out.
Yeah,
Too
if
funny.
it's too good, we cut it out.
So.
What about that? I mean, the cast is so amazing. It's just like such a perfectly cast film, and the characters. Talk a little bit about that, the process, and how you cast it, and how you built it. And
Well, we cast Jennifer and Jason really early. I mean, I think we knew from the get-go that this movie was really about those two characters, Predator and Prey, and I think we knew immediately that Jason was the guy to go for, because we asked ourselves, like, who plays that kind of role? Who plays this kind of cheeky guy who's like smartest guy in the room, but can say really insulting things, but be really charming? And that's Jason Bateman. Jason Bateman is just all.
he was
about
like,
that.
"Thanks."
He's like,
And he's here backstage.
Yeah,
a little pissed
Jason.
off, Byron. that
But
you
he's
said
so
that about him.
lovable. Well, the nice thing about him too is, let's say, like when you meet him in person, like everything you want Jason to be, he is. He's just the most charming, wonderful man. And he loves Disney movies. And this is a kind of a credit to Ron and John too, because when first day one that Jason Bateman showed up, he said to us, "Is this going to be anything like Princess and the Frog?" Because I love that
Really?
movie. I love
He really
Princess
wanted
and the
it
Frog.
to be like Princess and the Frog.
He wanted to sing.
I don't know what that means, but we didn't understand what exactly a
Yeah.
Princess and the
Wanted it to
Frog.
be in a
but
Disney
he
movie.
really wanted it to be
Yeah.
another Princess and the Frog. But.
And Jennifer, you guys want to talk about Jennifer or Idris?
Well, Ginny, like really, we like to cast to type, you know, the same way that Jason, because in animation there's already kind of a mask up, you know, over the actor that they're wearing as this animated character, that we don't really like to go to people and ask them to do a funny voice.
Right.
You know, it's like we like to go to people who there's a quality about them as a performer or the types that they play, you know, that we like to kind of work into our characters. And Jennifer is every bit Judy Hopps. It's like she's sweet as can be, but just absolutely she has a stick-to-itiveness, you know, that is unlike anything else, you know. So she was great to work, and we worked with her for what, 2 years.
Yeah,
you
2.5
know, it's
years.
like a lot of the actors that we work with will say, like, you know, John C. Reilly said on Wreck-It Ralph, like, this is the longest job I've ever had. You know, I was like, well, you mean like acting? And he's like, no, like jobs. You know, I have never been on a job this long, you know, to where, like, and the same with Jennifer and Jason, it's like they get to know their characters so well, you know, that they're coming in, by the end, it's like they're coming in, we look at, you know, the material that we're going to record, and it's just, and you guys probably go through that too, where it's just like, yep, we get it, you know, and most of the session is just visiting, you know, and then a little bit of recording.
Because most of the animals are so specific, you know, Mr. Big is this tiny Godfather-esque shrew, and the sloth is one of our story artists, Raymond Percy, and it was just amazing just to be able to kind of go from species to species and just kind of say, like, what's that animal gonna sound like? Like we actually took this trip to Africa in Kenya to do research, and we saw these huge Cape buffalo. They're these massive, like 2,500-pound bull buffaloes. They're covered with scars and their horns are broken, and they're very protective of their herd and their families. And we thought, well, that'd be a great character for the chief of police, and that's where Idris Elba's character came in. And he came in and he just nailed it. I mean, he's got that. He's just a big guy, but he's also kind of goofy. I mean, you want to talk about that?
Well, yeah, Bogo's character began as just very straight, just this kind of no nonsense, boss, and after recording with Idris Elba a couple of times, it's like, this guy is goofy. I mean, he would start to do these jokes and kind of weird voices, and it's like, this is like an area of Bogo we have to kind of explore, I think, because he's great, so that's where just the whole thing with like the little app and him secretly playing
his hidden love of Gazelle and
with
dancing.
Gazelle, that all just kind of came out of like working with Idris, it's like, he's just a big, I would think of him as Luther or The Wire or anything like that, but he's just very silly.
Were there similar discoveries in animation where you'd see something from some animator and you go, ooh, we got to chase that down? Or was it mostly
Well, there's a lot of stuff, like just the tests that they did. Sure. Like you guys do too. We do tons of experimental test animation on the characters that never make it into the movie or that no one ever sees. And some of that early stuff with like the very rabbit-like motion with Judy was really instrumental of just finding that balance between, is she like a human being or are they like their animal counterparts, so that early stuff was
interesting. And there was a big question early on, like we were asking ourselves, like, how animally do we go? Like, you could go really animal, and where it's almost like, we even like did couple drawings where you'll see Judy walking on her toes like a rabbit would, like with her heel up in the air, as a strange like dog leg look, and it was so upsetting that we didn't do it. And it was so some choices are aesthetic, but the acting choices, we came up with a good sort of rule of thumb. We thought, okay, so in general, these animals will act as we would act as human beings, but like if they start to get upset or if they're startled, then they're going to revert, kind of like we do as human beings. We kind of revert back to primal behaviors and instincts. And rabbits do this thing which is called, it's hard to pronounce, binkying. Binkying is when a rabbit will jump in the air really quick like that and land in the other direction. It's like a sign of alertness. And there's a scene where she almost gets stepped on by a rhinoceros here, and the animators just got into it. So they were looking for any opportunity to put these sort of animal behaviors in there where she can flip around, and it's subtle, but we wanted it to feel organic.
Just like saying binking.
Yeah.
Binking.
I don't care what it is.
It's nice.
It's soothing.
It's a little hard to say, but
it's
fun.
You talked a little bit about the themes and not wanting to be preachy and so forth. And I think you guys did such an amazing job of telling a sophisticated story. It's funny, it's fun, everyone loves it. But it is deep. I mean, it is a deep well, and it resonates, and it rattled around in my head for weeks and weeks and weeks, and it still is. And also, it feels almost like this miracle of timing. I mean, it's like almost, I know these movies are so long.
Bless Donald Trump.
Well,
God
right.
bless this man.
It's like you had a time machine or something. The world needs this picture. And again, this is not a question, just it just seems so amazingly appropriate.
Well, yeah, it was funny because when we started working, again, like Clark said, years ago, and these issues were out there, obviously, because we saw them back then, but it just sort of like the players were different, I think. And then as we were working on the movie, more and more stuff was happening in the news to bring our attention toward the subject of bias. And we had a remarkable woman working with us for many, many years in the film, and she's from the Bay Area. She's an educator named Dr. Shakti Butler, and she taught us all about not just overt bias and racism, but the really subtle stuff. And that, when we started to pay attention to that, that's when the movie started to feel very contemporary, and we're like, oh, this is just like that story that's happening, or that's just like this. Or even, I don't know, just for me, my understanding of what I thought bias was at the beginning of this film was different than where I wound up, because I look at myself very much like Judy, like someone who thinks they kind of understand these things, but Judy is a very well-meaning character. She really wants to make a difference in the world and do good, but the fact that she can actually look inside herself and see that, well, that's a problem that I have to admit to myself that I have, and I can step up and own it. And we thought that was a mature choice for a character to make.
Well, before we let you go, you have one bonus question?
I do. Is that all right?
All right, Michael. You know one thing that I noticed watching the clips, though? We are one of two films this year that doesn't have a main character washing up on a beach. You know, it's like there are 3 movies that
We did have a washing up on
Wait,
the
we
beach
did?
scene. We did.
Oh.
We cut it out, but yeah.
Oh,
So we
well,
tried.
then
Sorry,
Zucchini would have
folks.
been the only one, you know?
That's a
No-
great observation.
But, yeah, it's like
Is that
a
William's
lot of,
question?
I
That was
don't know what it
William's
means.
question. When does Judy go on the wash up on the beach?
Or what does it mean that we like movies where the characters are washing up on beaches
dramatic.
now?
I don't know.
You
I
it's
love it in
like,
life.
But why
not in
now?
movies.
You know, what is it about now that,
Feel washed.
that there's
Yeah.
people shipwrecking and
That's a
washing
great
up on beaches and waking up
That's
in
a
weird...
to be continued. We're
Yeah,
gonna get
I don't
big
know.
in the lobby.
Is
And
that what William
final
wanted to
question,
know?
This is the final question, and it's not about being watched up on the beach, but and I'll read it as he wrote
Damn
it
it.
again. You know that mean Fox guy that was so mean to Judy Hopps and takes the Lance
Gideon
tickets?
Gray.
Yeah, Gideon Gray. How does Judy get the tickets back?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, man.
That's a good question.
You found
It's
a plot hole?
sneaky.
I don't know. Did he?
Just kind of went...
They washed up on the beach? I don't know where
Yeah,
the
they
tickets
washed
went.
up on the beach. Yeah, they were like this in his bib overalls.
Okay.
And then she...
She
You know
got-
what, we really... Thank you, William. That's a great question.
That's a very perceptive kid, actually. Yeah.
Because we had to restage the scene several times because people on the crew would say, "Oh, so how is she getting those tickets? I mean, I can see them the whole time. You know, I can. The tickets are in frame. You know, so it's all right. Raise the camera up a little bit. And, well, she's not moving. You know, I can see her arms are not moving. How is she magically getting these tickets? All right, let's kind of isolate her face. You know, and
Or I imagine you said, nobody's going to care.
yeah, William.
Except
William does.
I think we should just
She's
call it right
sneaky.
now. Next year,
Yeah.
William is going to host.
Yeah, I think
that'd be
so.
awesome.
The Oscar.
You got to bring him
think
next
so.
year. I want to see. Yeah.
But you guys were great.
Yes.
Can we give
Thank
these
you.
guys
Yeah, man, for
so
Jonas
fun?
and Pete.
Round of applause.
Oh my gosh.
Funny.
They look so
topical.
fancy. Look at
Tall.
us all
Oh,
here.
we dressed
Just
up.
stop. You guys are coming. It's such an honor. And we love
Very
all
nice.
these movies, and we're so very proud to be here.
Before we let you go, let's give him one round of applause.
Thank you.
We're going to ask you guys to stay put, and we're going to invite all the filmmakers up here, and we're going to do a little quick Q&A. We're going to do with everybody, a little musical chairs.
Yeah, here.
Let's see.
We're told to kill time.
They have to be moving faster for this music to work. I don't think this music is actually copyright free, so maybe.
I don't know if it matters. Maybe it does.
Oh, we're over here.
That was a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right, everybody, take your seats.
I think you should play the music and we should all switch again.
That would be pretty entertaining. Play musical chair, John.
Killed your music.
I did.
I actually have.
Yeah.
Do you guys have mics? Okay, the first question we have for you guys. We all know that animation is just for kids. Why are you guys trying to ruin it all by making films for adults? No, I mean seriously, why do you think that people would say that animation is just for kids? I don't think any of us really approach film animation as being for kids.
We do. Yeah, it's why we started our film with the image of a baby's bloody eye socket.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a vestige of history. I mean, I think people tend to look at animation through a certain prism, but I think if you look at the last certainly the last 25 years, there's been such an incredible renaissance in animation and the storytelling, and it's taken on such greater degrees of sophistication, exploring real ideas, and I think the filmmakers working animation, to their credit, have realized that we can take this medium that is really just a visual medium and tell pretty much any kind of story in any genre possible. And I think that's really liberating. And I think when you look at the cross-section of the films that have been nominated this year, you see that they're so different from each other aesthetically, tonally, thematically. It just showcases what a rich vein you can tap in animation, how you can use it to tell beautiful stories that are stylized. And I think once you put it through that prism of animation, you can actually tackle some really deep and important issues that take a little bit of the sting out of it because it is stylized. And it's in some ways, it makes it easier for children to understand. And so I think there's a lot of different kinds of stories that you can tell that we're just starting to see, come out of the medium. And I think it's a really exciting time to work in animation.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else have anything to say on that?
I know I read notes. Walt Disney, actually, it was a story meeting I think they had an internal screening of Bambi, and there were notes where someone said, on the staff actually said, well, I think the kids will like it. And Walt Disney, I've read the transcript, and he was very insulted by that. And he was like, what is that, some kind of a crack? Because I think he always thought he was making movies for a general audience. He didn't think he was making movies for children, and I think that was true of those films, and I think it's true of all the films that we were involved in here as well.
So what was it, I'm just curious for everybody, anybody can jump in here, what was it that first drew you into animation? What was it about that really inspires you as a storyteller?
Well, I got to say one thing, that I think people who get involved with film or animation or any kind of art have a moment where they get hooked. And back in late 1980s, I got hooked I saw Roger Rabbit for the first time, and that really got me interested. Disney was doing something very different, so that got me interested in animation. But the thing that sealed the deal was the film made by these two guys down here, Little Mermaid. When I went to see Little Mermaid in the theater, that reinvented what I thought Disney animation was, especially with Ariel, because I loved Disney films growing up, but I really liked almost Warner Brothers better. But there was something about, because of the pace and the comedy, but the way you guys combined that in Little Mermaid, and the way that Ariel herself was so alive and different than other Disney heroines I had seen before. She seemed like a real living, breathing person that I might know. And there was something spectacular was happening at Disney, and I felt like I really had to be a part of that. And so every day I kind of pinch myself, because I sit right across from John Musker and Ron Clements. So to work with heroes of yours is a real treat. So
that's very cool. I mean, for me it was Pinocchio. I was 9 years old, and I saw Pinocchio in the theater, and for some reason, and I still don't know why, it just had like a profound effect. I became obsessed, and I tried to find out everything I could about animation, and I felt like that's what I want to get into. It's cool now, because in terms of what Byron said, because I had that experience as a kid, and then we got to make these movies at Disney, and that's really cool. And now there's like a newer generation that actually people who got into the industry because of things, and it's sort of a full circle thing, but it's something I never really thought about it on the other end. I mean, thought about it, when I was inspired as a kid, but even when we were making those films, didn't think about the fact that this could inspire other people to want to do this, and that's, I think, the coolest thing there is, really.
Yeah. Suzuki-san, I'm curious to hear your answer to that question. What? Yeah. What?
It's off the clock.
What? What was it that got you inspired to get into animation? How did that?
僕がアニメーション好きになったのは宮崎駿との出会いで、どうしたかというと、彼は作ることができたけどそばにプロデューサーがいなかった。だから僕がやろうと思いました。
I got interested in animation from my meeting with Hayao Miyazaki. And of course, Hayao Miyazaki could make animated films, but he didn't have a producer. He couldn't produce them. So I was lucky enough to become his producer.
で、いろんなアニメーションを見て、実は僕は、思い出した作品があります。これ古い作品です。日本で1943年かな、作られた「雲とチューリップ」っていう作品があるんですけど、この作品が大好きです。
So, of course, I've seen many, many animations, but one that really struck me, that it's an old film. It was made in 1943 in Japan, and it was called The Spider and the Tulip.
All right, something to look up. I've not seen that one. I'm curious about storytelling here too, because I know for us, there's always a balance of structure and theme and then just messing around. And so this idea of like, I'm just curious where your stories come from. Is it more nuts and bolts kind of left brain working it out mathematically? Or is it, who knows where the hell it comes from?
Well, for us, we have the left brain working it out very carefully, and then the running around it. So that's why it takes Ron and John.
Good. They look confused
Did
by
I just
that.
get insulted? Wait a minute.
Not at all.
That's it. The end. There's I know.
Anybody else want to talk about that?
I like beginning with the characters. You know, more than the world, more than the theme or a plot. You know, I love characters. That's always been my prime focus in films and TV shows. I would just fall in love with the characters and want to know more about them and just be intrigued by how the chemistry of characters together can motivate a story and how they can push the story forward. So a lot of times I work with Phil Johnston a lot, like on Wreck-It Ralph. He wrote the screenplay. He was one of the co-writers on Zootopia, and he's co-directing with me now on Wreck-It Ralph 2. And
I think you just made an announcement.
Yeah.
Whoops.
And we're on YouTube.
Sorry, Disney. But we like to start with characters and just kind of, well, what type of guy is this? What kind of person is she? How do they play off of one another, and what can that lead into?
One of the things I got to say that's great about Disney, I think this is true of Pixar too, is that we're communities of enthusiasts. Like, we love movies, we love storytelling, and so when you're in the very early stages of pitching something, just seeing someone's face change, like when you say I'm going to make a stop-motion samurai movie, and someone lights up, and then they get excited about it, or if they say we're going to do something about talking animals, or I'm sure when you guys were pitching Inside Out, like that, when you come up with like a really interesting concept that people hook into, and then they start to kind of riff on themselves. It's great, because I can't imagine just doing this in isolation alone. It's very tough. I remember as a student doing animation, because you're just kind of by yourself, and then once you're in this group, you can feed off each other, and everyone can help inspire you. And I think that's what carries us through these very, very difficult schedules and all this, really, really tough work, is the fact that we're surrounded by people who just love this stuff.
I know. I love the topic of films that you all saw and that we saw that really keyed us into wanting to work in movies and in animation. And this is just such a great panel of directors and producers and animators and artists. And I know there's a lot of young kids here and students, and I suspect that we'll be watching some of the films that these people make. Can you talk a little bit about, I don't know, advice? Like, this panel is up here. It's so amazing. It's so talented. It's so creative. And I'm guessing some folks would like to hear. What should they do? How do you get into this? How do you start? What's the first stepping stone? How do you ignite it?
Don't do it.
It's fair. It's fair.
And for those who are interested in doing it, you're going to hear that over and over again. Don't do it. This is stupid. This is a fool's errand. This is a pipe dream.
It's like when I started, not too long after that. Ward Kimball wasn't there at the time, but he would visit once in a while. And there were a group of us young animators together, and he got us all together, and he said, "Walt's dead, and you missed it." And so those inspiring words.
It's true. He's dead. But I think the thing is, for people who, we've all heard that. Every single person on this stage has heard, "This is stupid. You shouldn't be doing this. This is a waste of your time." And for those who are not discouraged by that, that's everyone on the stage, that we were passionate about this thing, this really weird gift that we had, this really weird talent that we wanted to exercise and to build on. And then you know, it's just something you have to pursue. You have to be completely passionate about what you're doing. And then to find like-minded people, to find kindred spirits who can support that and feed that and inspire you. I mean, I think that's what artists and filmmakers dream of. And so I think that, you know, for anyone out there who's aspiring to be an animator or a filmmaker, recognizing that it is going to be really hard. But if you have the passion and the commitment and the drive, you can do extraordinary things. And I think that, you know, every single person up here is a testament to that.
Yeah, I had a teacher, an art teacher, that we would ask him, you know, like, can you actually make a living in art? Because as a kid, adults would say to me, you know, are you sure you want to be an animator? How about, you know, maybe an architect? You know, because they both draw, you know, but it... And I remember asking this teacher, like, is it possible to make a living as an artist, as an animator? And he said, well, just in art in general, it's like the people that make a career in it and who are successful are the ones who stay in it. You know, if you quit, you're not going to make it, you know. So, and it would seem so simple, you know, it seems so like such simple advice. And it really, and I was about 15 when I heard that. And that advice kind of carried me all through my 20s into my 30s, you know, when I started in this business. And it never felt like, because when I was getting into animation, like right around the same time as Pete, there was nothing really going on. It was, other than, you know, Disney films and Saturday morning television, there was nothing going on in animation. It's like no one was getting into animation to become rich or famous, you know. And had we listened to what Ward Kimball had said, you know, then
he was kidding, I think.
But still, no, there were a lot of people that spoke that way, and we would have no Pixar, we would have no Leica, we would have no, you know, second golden age of Disney. And I've always found that what would I do otherwise? You know, it's like, I've never been more miserable in my life when I was trying to pursue a normal life, you know. It never felt, even when things felt incredibly impossible, you know, to make a living in animation, just pursuing it made me more happy in those dark times than I was when I was, you know, kind of successful at normal work. And I think that's kind of that's the...
You just called our work not normal.
Yeah, it's not.
Got that, right?
Yeah, I got it.
Normal work.
Well, I'd love
I
to hear
think
from
the audience wants to know.
Yeah, normal.
I'd love to hear from some of the producers too, because obviously the artists get a lot of credit and a lot of attention, but you know what you guys is so crucial to the whole process.
Did you everybody hear that? I just want everybody to, we all want to note this moment.
Yeah.
How did you, what was the inspiration for you to get into the and what keeps you going?
Well, for me, it's the love of storytelling. So for me, I came from live action and was lucky enough to arrive at Pixar and learned a lot of what I know about animation at Pixar, which is a great place to learn, but it was always about storytelling. So to me, my best advice is just keep telling stories in whatever medium you can. Draw it, write it, be part of your friends' stories, make short films. These days, there's like, you can make films on your phone. You really don't need to do what we used to do when I was in film school, you know, scrounging around for little bits of film. So just keep doing it. It's the love of telling stories.
Well, for me, I actually, when I was a kid, my grandparents owned a movie theater, so movies were a part of my life. And I loved them, but I didn't have the guts coming out of college to actually try to make this be a career. So I went to Wall Street in New York, which has nothing to do with animation, and realized after 3 years that I didn't have a passion for it, and I didn't want to be 40 years in the future doing a job that was paying me well but wasn't satisfying me creatively. And so I thought, I'm going to leave that job. My parents thought I was crazy. Moved to LA and figure out how I get a job at a studio, and Disney offered me a job. And once I came into Disney, I saw this division of animation, and I thought, there's an area where somebody who has this brain about finance can actually go in and be really close to the creative process. And so I did everything I could to maneuver myself into that division, and it eventually happened. And I say to everybody out there, if it's you got to follow your heart, you got to follow your passion, you got to do something you're going to love, Because if you do, every day you will get up and you'll be inspired by it, and you will inspire other people around you. So as much as everybody wants to give you that advice, the safe advice of what might seem like the easiest thing or the safest thing to do, follow your heart.
And they give you that advice because they...
Yes. Yeah.
Because they care about you. It's like parents and family members and teachers, and they care about you. But sometimes I don't think they understand the creative mind, you know, of how miserable that can feel, you know, if you're not chasing that crazy dream.
Right.
That's true. And I think there's a million different ways. And like this is a very unusual industry in film and storytelling in general, animation being an even stranger kind of subset of what we all do out here. And the fact that if you are a student and you're looking for the one path, and I don't think there is one, I think everyone up here has like a different way that they got into filmmaking, and the fact that we all share that passion in common, like, you know, the Harryhausen stuff, like when I watched when I was a kid, the Sinbad stuff, and the whatever, you know, fascinated you, there's a reason that you're feeling driven and passionate about that. Don't ignore that. That's going to be the thing that really guides you. That's the gut feeling that you need to tell you where you want to go. And I can tell you there's nothing better than getting up every morning and going to a place where you're doing what you love, and that doesn't come without a lot of sacrifice and a lot of time, and it takes a long time, but reach out, ask for help, and it's, you know, it's just everyone comes to it differently, and respect the fact that that path is going to give you something unique to say that no one else can. So it's you know, it's you're great. I believe we believe in you. It's an awesome thing to pursue what you love.
So we've heard a lot of advice about doing it for yourself and following your own gut. We also talk a lot about pleasing the audience and making sure what you're saying is they're responding to. Which one is it? Is it for the audience or for you?
We are our audience.
Aha.
Answer. That's correct.
Take that, Pete Docter.
Tried to fool them and
Get out of here.
Think you're so tall.
Your philosophical traps.
With your tie.
Oh, this is going to get him. That's what you said. I'm going to write this one. It's going to get.
How do you balance that, though? I mean, at what point do you listen to your own gut?
He's not going to give up on this
I
one.
think
No, I want to pursue
That's a really
this.
good question.
I think people in doing things like feature animation, and I mean, are sort of, there's an entertainer inside of you somewhere, and it's that desire to want to entertain an audience, to excite. What?
You were saying.
But it's not, so you make them for yourself, but hopefully you're always hoping that the stuff that you like, other people will like, and the stuff really you wanted to communicate for an audience. Communication is really important. I think that's a thing that in terms of learning the art of communication, because a lot of times what you think you're communicating isn't what you're communicating, and just because you're putting something into a movie doesn't mean that an audience is taking that out of the movie. So just to learn how to express yourself in a way that an audience can get it, I think is a big part of just what this business is.
I've struggled with that since I was 5. I used to draw comic strips when I was a kid, and I would show them to my mom and say, "Mom, is this funny?" And she'd say, "Oh, I think you think it's funny, but it's not."
Wow.
I'm glad you think this is so funny, but it's not really that funny, you know. So
Your mom was
she
harsh.
was a tough critic. She was tough.
Your mom.
Good old dream killer mom. Yeah.
Do you invite your mom to your screenings?
What's that?
Do you invite your mom to your screenings?
Oh God, no.
That prepped you for that.
When I was working on The Simpsons, like it was my first job directing, and the first show that I ever directed was airing, you know, and I was like, "Mom, Dad, did you watch it?" You know, I called them up after the show was over. My mom was like, "Oh, it was good, really good. But you know what a good show is? Alf. That's a watch Alf. That's a good show. That's funny. Maybe you should try and get a job on Alf." I'm like, I went to school for animation. It's live action with a puppet. So my whole life has been that struggle of
You're trying to live
is
up
it
to
good?
Alf?
Yeah, of Alf. You know.
Yeah.
Is
Wreck-It
it
Alf?
Is it my
Wreck-It Alf 2? Is that what's going on? Okay, I figured.
Wasn't it
Is
just
it the
that
comic strip or is it Alf? You know where you know.
Oh, it's Alf with you.
Yeah. Wasn't it just at a recent screening that John Lasseter said, I think you think it's funny, but
But it's
Mom,
not.
still.
It's not. But then you know, I would show it to my friends who were like, "No, this is funny," you know. So it's kind of you find that area, you know. I think.
Well,
don't talk to your mother.
Yeah, we're glad you didn't listen to
Whatever
your mother.
you do, don't show your work to your mother.
We're glad you didn't listen to your mother. We Pete and I are so proud again to be up
God,
here.
I
and
hate
to
her.
sit with
I mean,
leave her alone.
She's a horrible woman. It's just
Give her her Alf box set and just it's okay.
Tell us a little more about your mother.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe this is
I don't know.
kind of a therapy.
I think
thing.
I'm in love
Bring
with
the
it,
lights
guys.
down a little bit.
Turn the lights.
What
listen,
else? You want to marry their mother? Is it just me?
I think we'll be talking a little bit after the show.
Later.
Again, to be continued. To be continued. We are so proud to be up here to stand with these great filmmakers. Let's hear it for
Fantastic.
the panel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for having us.
Thank you.
Good luck, everybody.